Well, if it isn't Mr. Matt, the mortgage guy, Gougé, and Sean Grapevine, Vice President of Product Strategy at your service, again, reunited for the Monday Market Update. I am excited for this one. I hope everybody's had a fantastic weekend. Welcome to the show. Please feel free to type in your comments, questions, thoughts, dreams, desires. All of it. Just let it all out in the chat. That seems to just be kind of the vibe for the world these days. Just let it all out. Hey, IT, don't worry about QAing your security thing. Just deploy it. It's okay. The internet, we can do it without the internet for a couple days. Or you know what? Well, anyway, I won't get political. I no leanings either way. It's just crazy on Sunday to be like, oh, that was a big change. I sort of expected it, but when it happened, it was big, and it means it has some effect on the market. But Matt, before we talk about something as boring as the market, how was your trip to Hawaii?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Spent the last week on the main island, mostly in Kona, which is on the west side of the island. Drove over to Hilo on the east side to see some waterfalls, hiked some caves.
Did you do any of the stuff that I told you to do in that text I sent you?
I had a bunch of different texts from a bunch of different people, and I did a lot of cool things.
Okay, all right. This is very political of you.
Matt, so I don't know who it came from, honestly, but we had a phenomenal time. We saw Black Sand Beach.
Oh, nice.
Got to go
the Punaluu Black Sand Beach on the way to the volcano.
I think so. It's down like south, and then on the way back, there's like some bakery that has amazing stuff.
Yes, yes. Okay, I did mention both of those in my text
message. Okay, yeah. Oh, you crushed it, man. You did so good. And the last night we were there, which was Friday, me and my youngest, my 11-year-old, did the manta ray snorkel like at night. Dude, that was cool.
We were thinking about doing that. We were so tired by the end of it.
The GoPro videos of these humongous like 15-foot wingspan creatures coming like within inches of your face, pretty cool. So yeah, we had a great time. I'm excited to be back in the office doing mortgage stuff. I actually, hung out on my balcony a couple hours a day, responded to some text messages, talked to some clients that were making offers. So you're never truly unplugged, but it was still an awesome trip. We had a great time.
Yeah, no better way to get busy as a salesperson, loan officer, real estate professional than to go on vacation. It always kind of floods in. Well, we have had some, like I said, some shakeups.
What I missed?
Yeah, a lot. CPI had just kind of come in. I think maybe you and I had talked about that 2 weeks ago. Started looking good for the potential rate reduction. And we've already seen it a little bit. Those rates are squarely, into the high sixes as opposed to the low sevens by now. And I mean, if you're getting a VA loan or FHA, you're talking fives, right? You tell me. Yeah. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, we're in the high fives, and it's interesting to look at. I find it interesting, at least that Fed Watch tool that we look at, that it's almost a certainty that nothing happens in July.
And then almost a certainty that there is a reduction in September.
Right. And it's like, maybe they got inside info. They know that Jay Powell was like, July's not the time. We're going to hold off. But like, for sure, there's a cut coming, but the cut ain't coming until September.
Well, I agree with everybody that it's definitely not going to happen in July. They don't spring things on people anymore. I'm just surprised that like it hasn't really been, the Fed hasn't indicated that September is such a sure thing, but 93.6% of traders think that it is a sure thing. So yeah. I'm with you. I mean, and I think it makes sense. I think it's a good idea. I think like that is the direction. I think that's probably what's going to happen. But like, the level of conviction is pretty astounding, and I don't necessarily think is supported by the numbers in other securities. Like when I look at the 10-year, I'm like, this isn't trading as if the people who are trading it are 100% sure, 93.6% sure that there is going to be a reduction in interest rates in September. That being said, it is a long stretch between July 31st and the 18th of September. So 6 weeks is a long time for us to develop that conviction. One of the ways we'll do that is by looking at the numbers. The numbers we have coming in this week are two big ones: GDP and PCE. Matt, we've been doing this for 4 months or so together now. Tell me what's PCE? What do I always say PCE is?
PCE. Gosh, why can't I think of what that stands for right now?
Because
give it to us, Sean.
It's like the smart but not as attractive person at the dance. It knows everything, but it's not the headline. It's not getting prom king or queen. PCE is the Fed's headline inflation number. So, or not their headline, their preferred inflation number. The headline inflation number is CPI. That's what we're all. The consumer price index. That's what we all think is the most important measure of inflation. The Fed says otherwise. They say we actually look at this thing called PCE, which is sort of calculated by a different division of the government and has a very similar way of calculating it. It's just weighted slightly differently. It doesn't take into account some things. It does take into account other things. But that is now the problem with PCE is even though the Fed says that, the numbers are generally pretty close to or go in the same direction as CPI, and CPI comes out 2 weeks earlier. So everybody's like, yeah, nobody cares about that. But it does back up or, confound the CPI reading. So CPI came out a week and a half ago. PCE will come out later this week. And we'll get confirmation of whether or not that drop in inflation that we saw 2 weeks ago for the month of June is real. We're going to finally find out.
To PCE, yeah, because that's like it or not. That's the one that they prefer to look at.
Exactly. And then GDP, we've got that too, right? Like the raising of interest rates that the Fed has participated in is to do one thing: tamp down economic activity. I mean, they don't like to say it like that. We don't like to think about it like that. But this is the quick rise in interest rates is specifically no other purpose other than to tamp down economic activity, because when economic activity goes up too fast, you end up with inflation, which is the great bugaboo of our era. So we've definitely got some big numbers on the horizon. August will be a big month of no Fed meeting, but a lot of numbers to really cement what the decision is. Matt.
Yeah, and I think just for an analogy that makes it make sense in my head, like they're trying to slow down the economy, which will slow down inflation. And when they hiked rates as much as they did, they instead of tapping on the brakes, they kind of pulled the e-brake. The economy kept roaring, and that's why we're seeing rates higher for longer, is because they're like, wait, this didn't have the desired effect of everything slowing down, where we feel good about inflation and we can ease off the brake and cut rates and bring them back down. And so it's been higher for longer, mainly because the economy has been so resilient, at least in their eyes, right? Numbers that they're looking at. And so
Yeah, I think that's we've got a great question in the chat over here, which I want to get to here in a second from Jay Homeboy. What's up, Jay Homeboy? And but before we get to that, I kind of want to get the readings about the economy, like, does it reflect what you're seeing in your clients' loan applications or your loan officer's clients' loan application? Like, the economy's too hot. People are making too much money. They've got too many dollars to spend, is sort of like what we've been hearing for the last year. Is that what you're experiencing when you review loan applications?
It's really not. And the crazy part is, in this environment that we're in, where we've got interest rates relatively high compared to what we've seen over the last few years, home prices have continued to go up. What I generally hear from clients is our dollars don't go as far. Everything's more expensive, from groceries to childcare to insurance to everything, right? And so consumers are feeling strained. Consumers are feeling stretched, and yet, like, everything that comes out around the economy is like, it's roaring, everything's fine. And quite honestly, that's just not what I'm hearing, seeing, and feeling. And part of it is how spoiled we got getting,
Sure.
the money at, an interest rate so low, it's actually it's pert near free, and injections of stimulus. Like, it takes a while to wean off of that drug, I think, and that's been harder than most people would have predicted for most Americans, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's been hard for loan officers. What do you usually see when it comes to, like, the impediments to buying right now? Is it that just purely housing costs are pushing people's debt to income ratios too high, or are people carrying, if they're trying to buy a house and they also are carrying a lot of debt? Is it, the thing I've always experienced is not enough cash to close. Like, what's kind of like the actual driving force of, like, having a difficult time buying a house right now?
I think the two things I see most commonly, I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, is one, first-time home buyers don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to put down. And so there's plenty of programs out there. You can do 0% down, 3% down, 3.5% down. But with those smaller down payments comes a larger loan balance, comes a larger payment. And so there's a little bit of sticker shock around monthly payment, which is interesting because we lived through this time where, when the money's pert near free, you could buy a house. It's significantly cheaper than renting. Now we're in a moment. It reminds me, honestly, Sean, of when I bought in 2006. I paid more for my mortgage than I would have rented a house for in that same neighborhood. But I knew that long term,
Sure.
I'd win, right? And so I've
Yeah, but
owned that.
I mean, I don't know if that's really the case right now, because I was on my run this morning, not to brag, and I ran by a house that, like, I've lived in this neighborhood, like, for a long time, and back when I was a renter, and this house was for rent when I was renting. I almost rented it, but it was, like, too small, too shabby, even for little me back in my 20s. And that house, I'm pretty sure I thought was a stretch for me at, like, $1,050 back in, like, 2013. It's 3 bedroom, 1 bath, probably about 1,100 square feet if it's like the rest of the houses in this neighborhood. They're renting it out for $2,500. It's more than my mortgage. Again, not
Right.
to brag. Uh, but
Here's the
again,
thing, though, Sean. Yeah, is that it's more than your mortgage currently. If somebody bought your house today and put 5% down, they
yeah,
might pay $3,500 a
would they
month.
be? I mean, yeah, but it's actually, like, not really apples to apples, because my house is a little bit bigger and nicer than that one. But insane, if you to buy that house, I don't know which would be. Here's what I know is both numbers would be difficult. So, but I will say, like, this, that if you're making that decision between renting and buying right now, if it's a couple $100s one way or the other, the good thing about buying is you are squirreling away a few $100s a month at first, and a growing amount every month into your principal, and you're actually, like, enjoying the benefits of home ownership and the appreciation in the asset value, which, as we say almost every week, if not every other week, the appreciation of your house will go up don't wait for rates to go down, because when they do, it's going to be a bonanza. I mean, we're already seeing it. Like, our lock volume is up, credit reports are up, all that stuff, just from like the reduction in rates by what, 0.3%. Imagine going another 1%. Like, these houses aren't going to get any cheaper.
Well, yeah, they
And
haven't even started cutting the rates yet. And I know from my small little business, 60, 70, 80 buyers who, whether it's the right decision or not, are like, you know what? When rates come down a little tad, I'm going to jump back in. Well, the unfortunate part for most of those people is like, you're going to jump back in when everyone else does. And more buyers, little inventory. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. It's supply and demand.
right.
It will push prices up.
And it's not going to take a bunch of these people off the fence that were like, well, that one of the reasons people are hesitant to sell is because their rates are currently too low to, like, mine. I can't sell. I mean, the rate I got myself in 2020, it was like, it doesn't make any sense. And so, but that might bring people off the sideline to buy, but it's not going to bring people off the sideline to sell. They're like, oh, good, I can replace my 2.25% interest rate with a 5.75 instead of a 7%. Like, that's not maybe enough of an impetus to do it. So I think it's going to get real spicy as soon as those rates actually come down. Let's get to this question I've got over here in the chat. I love this question because I remember starting as a loan officer and trying to think through this as well. And Jay Homeboy, you have my exact same thought process. It's not right, but it is the right thought process. The question is, Matt, I'm curious to hear your answer. What's the process of buying an investment property such as a single family house with someone other than your spouse? How does the taxes work? Is it predetermined that each side split 50-50 on everything?
It's not predetermined. You could set it up however you want, right? You could set up 75-25 ownership.
But as far as the powers that be go, the people that you're actually having to pay, how do they see it? How does like the local tax authority, or how does your mortgage lender see it?
Right. Yeah. And so that's an important thing too, is sometimes people like, I'm going to qualify for half of this mortgage because half of this mortgage is what I'm paying. When you co-sign on any loan, you are 100% responsible for that loan and that debt.
It's 100.
Yeah, it's 100. And so, you don't pay, they don't pay, the mortgage company, is going to ding your credit, is going to come after both of you equally. I work with a lot of investors, and I just have to be honest right now, Sean. Like, it's something you got to really think hard about, like entering into business with somebody, like marrying someone in business to go in on a house. Although some people might say, well, I want to put down 25% because we get the best terms at 25%. I don't have 25% down. So if I can collect 12.5, they can collect 12.5, we can go in together. Generally speaking, like, it makes things more complicated. I almost would encourage somebody to do it solo with a less expensive property, or hold off and do it solo at a later date than to, force yourself into this partnership, which, even great friends, great partnerships, things will change. 3 years from now, they're having a family, you're moving across the country, like, you want to sell, they don't.
I think that's an excellent point. Is the question is like, probably paying the mortgage on time and getting a renter in there and splitting up work. Like, you can probably do that. The biggest debate would come like, well, I think we should sell it. I need the cash. Both people have to agree to sell it. I mean, they could sell it to you, but then you have to go through the mortgage process in order to buy their share, to like get them off the mortgage. You have to refinance or pay off your mortgage in order to get them off of it. And it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do at all times, depending on the market and your personal situation. So I'm with Matt on this. It is I would say, like, maybe look down market and start with a smaller both of you guys start with a smaller property. Consider this a networking opportunity, and kind of do, like, share what you've learned with each other. But now, if this is just to like live in it says investment property. Yeah.
And I was going to say too, to your point, like you said, start with a smaller one, and maybe they start with a smaller one. You could have a separate agreement where you guys are partners in a deal that's just in your name, and you guys are partners in a deal that's just in your partner's name. I saw that work.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea.
Two partners over time I think it was like 26 single family properties. I love this story because it's a past client of mine that I feel like I was part of kind of helping him structure this empire he built, where between two partners, they were able to purchase 26 single family properties. They were real estate agents that did some where they flipped and they collected the cash, some they held on to. After about a decade, they sold some, refinanced some, took all this capital that was jointly theirs because they were partners, even though some was in one name, some was in another. And they bought an apartment. No, they bought a hotel together. Best
Whoa.
Western. Best
Wow.
Western, Sean, that cash flows them $90,000 a month. And they were just buy and hold single family home investors. Yeah. And so like whatever they pulled between some sales and some refinances, that 1.8 million down or something, they bought like an $8 million Best Western, and the thing kicks off $90,000 a month in profit. So they're doing pretty good. That's a good, happy story of a partnership gone well. They don't always end well.
That's crazy. Yeah. I can't remember the last time I saw a Best Western.
I think it's in Iowa.
Wow. Are the clients from Iowa, or they just found this opportunity?
Found this opportunity in Iowa, California guys like me.
That's crazy. Well, I think next week we should really spend some time dwelling on investment properties and investment property sort of strategies for your, early home buyer, for your early investor. It's something I think about a lot. I think there's a lot of great opportunities out there. Maybe not in your market, but as your Best Westerners have shown, it doesn't necessarily have to be in your market. And there's a lot of ways to leverage your primary residence into an income producing asset as you sort of move through your stages of life. That's my favorite thing to see. You can create a spoiler alert. I won't go too deep into this, but you can create a legacy for yourself and your family just by moving every 5 to 7 years and retaining the primary residence behind you as an investment property. Multi-million-dollar estate by age 50 or 60, depending on when you start. So huge opportunities.
I like that topic.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always like, you got to save up money for your second house. You got to have a down payment for your second house so you can keep your old house and turn it into rental property. You have 5 rental properties by 30 years into your home buying journey that are appreciating it. Fantastic. Anyway, and they get
6.9% over the last 39 years in California. So people be knocking California, bro, but I can bring you some stats where a public school kid like me, get a hold of a couple properties and you see some great appreciation.
Yeah, and you get to if you do it with your old primary residence, you get your old primary residence interest rate. You don't have to refi into some sort of investment loan. It's like you get to keep that. So huge fan.
I'm looking forward to that convo, brother, for sure.
It's gonna be fun. Well, I will kick off the countdown to next week right now. Matt, it has been a pleasure reuniting with you. You look positively refreshed, sun-kissed. You look like you had a fantastic week in Hawaii, and I hope that you have a fantastic week in where are you? Sacramento,
California, baby. Yeah, it's only going to be like 110 this week. It's going to be nice.
Inhospitable for human life. Well, I hope you have a great one. Everyone, please think up some questions about investment properties. Really looking forward to seeing you on next week's call and diving into that. Let's go take a look at the market and lock some loans, Matt.
Sounds good, brother. Have a good week, Sean.
See you, everyone.